Good evening, everyone, and welcome live on the World Racing Network to tonight's broadcast of the Total Nonstop Racing Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue's Lawn Service. Tonight, it is a very special race here at Richmond Raceway because tonight, Garrett, is a very special day for our own Bill Edwards. It is the happy 48th birthday, Bill 150 here at Richmond. Happy birthday, Bill. Bill having a pretty good season here in TNR 2. He comes into tonight, the final race of the regular season, as the points leader. There is no better night to celebrate your birthday.
Mitchell, I just find it hard to believe that we actually know how old Bill Edwards is. This is like Obama's birth certificate all over again, as far as I'm concerned. They only had like sundials back then to be able to tell time, and maybe like an old calendar left over from the Jesus days. There's no way he's 48. I've heard the man's voice. I've seen pictures. I just don't believe it.
Whatever his age may be, a very happy birthday, Bill, from all of us here at the World Racing Network, and maybe get into victory lane here tonight. Get into a 1 on that win column this season. Bill Edwards in practice is 7th fastest. Here is the birthday boy himself in the S2R Fatal Concepts machine. 7th place in practice in another race that is time-wise in practice very close together between a lot of your top cars, and that's what we've come to expect all season long. And this track at Richmond, we saw it some this weekend. Usually when NASCAR comes, this Bill takes a big slide down the back straightaway. This track always produces some exciting side-by-side racing. There's a lot of room to dive it into these corners, and this is, I think, a very good race to cap off the regular season here.
Yeah, fun place to be, Mitchell. And like you said, this is a very racy, drivable racetrack. These guys are going to be able to run side by side. They're going to be able to adjust their brake bias and get better speed longer in the run. And I expect the talented Total Nonstop Racing League drivers here to be able to capitalize on the opportunity that Richmond provides as far as keeping the field tight. And guys will be able to make moves and gain those very valuable points here as we're closing off the regular season.
There's a new face on top of the speed charts here in practice. It is Chuck Sweeting, driver of the number 75. Not on track right now. This is a new look for Johnny Eckert in the number 90. Quite a different skin. We've got a couple drivers with new paint schemes here tonight. I know Bob Giaquinto also running a new tabletop trio car. That was the same old Hello Kitty from Mike Floppy Tellier. Great looking race car there. With just under 2 minutes left to go in practice. Tellier also had himself quite the season. 3 wins in the win column for him. The winningest driver in the regular season, J.D. Laird, finds himself wrecked into the outside wall and 6th in practice currently. Your top 5 in practice, Chuck Sweeting, the new face here tonight. DJ Weeks in 2nd, Johnny Eckert 3rd. And then it's Philip Scott and Jason Gracias, who is back again tonight. Always have to keep an eye on Jason Gracias whenever he shows up, Garrett, especially at a short track like this.
Yeah, I think this is one of those tracks that Jason had circled on his calendar. He was going to make sure he made this race, and I expect him to be very competitive tonight, especially if this race goes green and he's able to save his tires, because Jason is absolutely one of the best there is at saving tires and having speed during a long run. And wow, Mitchell, we're seeing a lot of talented drivers spin out during practice here. I think there's some loose conditions these guys are battling with these race cars.
You see James Lorello get really loose out of turn 2. That's something we have seen quite a bit of here. Normally we don't see a lot of drivers wreck and spin in practice. We watched Bill Edwards get loose off of turn 2 quite a bit. James just did it, and you said from talking to the drivers, that's something these guys are going to struggle with a lot here tonight, at least on the short run, is again James gets a little bit of a slide, not as bad, coming out of turn number 2. And he works all the way up to that outside lane here in the corner. We don't see that typically as much here at Richmond, but drivers have been known to go out into that 2nd groove, even the 3rd groove a little bit if you feel really gutsy about it. This practice getting ready to wrap up here, and we're going to transition over into qualifying. Fastest time, a 22.23 for Chuck Sweeting. DJ Weeks about half a tenth behind. as James Lorello, to cap off practice, goes for a nice little spin down the front straightaway. We'll see who takes to the track for qualifying here. Garrett, this is one of those interesting tracks. It's not really as cut and dry of whether you want to qualify or not. If you were one of these drivers, what would your decision be here in qualifying, whether to take time?
Mitchell, are we assuming I have talent in this scenario, or am I driving like my
Sure.
normal self? Okay, so if I'm a talented race car driver and I'm able to put a solid lap down here, I want to start up front, and I want to not have to pass people because different braking points. I just put myself in that position where we can have an accident. I can take myself out of contention early on. Jamar's out there now, 28. Jamar Dumas taking a lap. He's going to see if he can start up more towards the front because you don't want to get into anyone else's mess out there. And you can see how loose these guys are. There could be a wreck anywhere in the field on lap 1. The best way to avoid that, Mitchell, start on the pole and just drive away from them.
Like we saw in the Cup race yesterday, too. It's even being up at the front, you can't always avoid those incidents. We saw that a little bit yesterday. This is Jason Gracia's fastest so far in qualifying. Great chance, too, to look at the new tabletop trio machine Bob Giaquinto has going on, painted by Max Graphics. As a nice looking paint scheme for Bob, as always, turned out by the Max Graphics shop. And Bob will go to third in qualifying right now. We'll see if that time gets moved down a little bit as qualifying continues. This is Paul Bilson in the 00, improves to 6th place on that qualifying lap. Bilson's a driver, and there's a couple drivers this season who really just have not had the luck going their way, and we've talked a little bit about that, and it gets frustrating after a while. But then you have other drivers like Bob Giaquinto. When we get to this point in the season, he's just put together so many good, consistent finishes that he's up there 6th in points. Only has 3 top 10s though, but just by finishing races so consistently, when you get to this point in the season, he's sitting really good to make the playoffs here potentially.
That's what it's about, Mitchell. Put yourself in that position to get into the dance, and once you're into the playoffs, anything can happen. Guys can wreck, guys can have bad weeks. You lead some laps, capitalize, and make up the points, and you could become a Total Nonstop Racing champion. We've seen it happen, and all it takes is just being in the show. And Bob's put himself in position. There's other guys here that could maybe do it with a win, points-wise. Anything can happen at this time of the year, and guys like Bob, I mean, it's all going to pay off, these consistent runs. Yeah, you'd like more top 5s, you'd like maybe a podium here and there, but you got to accept what you've had, and so far it's been a consistent season for him, much like Bill did in past seasons when guys were winning races and he was just there every single week.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's what we see. Bill Edwards up at the top of the point standings right now as well. Couple more drivers taking to the track later in qualifying here. This is Jake Bustos in the number 74. Also Matthew Rodriguez in the Goose car. Took Trading Paints a second to load that in there. And Jason Schue as well. Just went to 10th on the speed chart. See Matthew Rodriguez into 9th. Jake Bustos 13th on lap number 1. We'll see if he can pick it up any lap number 2. Johnny Eckert, I don't think it's very surprising to see him up at the top of the speed charts with how he performed at New Hampshire. That was really the class of the field run he had going on there. JD Laird, also no surprise, currently sits in the outside pole. Jake Bustos goes to 10th place. And then Jason Gracias and Philip Scott will make up row 2, assuming no one else goes and takes qualifying time. We will not be the case. Here's DJ Weeks in the number 97 machine. The 75 of Sweeting, fastest in practice, not on the track for qualifying as of yet. And with 30 seconds left, probably not going to either. So that's an interesting strategy call from the rookie.
Yeah, perhaps thinking about that lap 1, somebody spinning out, getting in there too deep, or somebody missing a braking point and causing the big one. Well, I talked about being in front of the field when it happened. You could also be the very last car in line and able to avoid a wreck. And here's Floppy out there looking to, I don't know if he's actually going to put in a genuine lap or if he's going to do one where he like crosses the line 99 seconds after he takes his time, but this looks pretty decent.
This will be lap number 2 for Mike Tellier. First one was 17th on the speed charts. That one jumps him up to 11th to start this race, just outside the top 10, as the field now is going to begin gridding up for the race. I will take you through your starting lineup here tonight in the happy 48th birthday Bill 150. Again, happy birthday to our own Bill Edwards, who will roll off 9th. We'll get to him in just a minute. First, though, up at the front of the grid, it is going to be Johnny Eckert in the number 90 machine. To his outside, J.D. Laird. Then making up row 2 is Jason Gracias and Philip Scott. Row number 3, DJ Weeks and James Lorello in the number 13 machine. There's Lorello. Starting back in row number 4, it is Tristan Thuggy Maher and Bob Giaquinto. Good qualifying effort for Bob here tonight. Bill Edwards will make up the final row in the top 10 alongside Jamar Dumas on his birthday. Then outside the top 10, it's Mike Floppy Tellier starting in 11th. Jake Bustos rolls off in the 12th position. Matthew Rodriguez in the Goose Machine starts from 13th with Jason Schue to his outside. Then it's Robert Tripp and Paul Bilson 15th and 16th, followed by Vincent Valvano, the last car to take a qualifying time in that Talkin' Giants Ford. And then rounding out the field on the final row will be Chuck Sweeting, fastest in practice, and then Stephen Doziak Jr. in an interesting looking car. I thought for a second that was Trading Paints not loading in, but I think that just is a little bit of an unconventional look here tonight for the 55.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he's going for there. Somebody as popular as Doze, you would think would have plenty of sponsors on that number 55, but maybe they're just saving it for a race he's going to be a little more competitive at. I'd like to see all these drivers have some sort of sponsor on their vehicle. These guys all deserve it. They put the time in, and it's nice to see represent your friend's business or a local business or whatever. I mean, just get somebody's name out there, and you never know where the connections might be made.
Or be like Robert Tripp, put the TNR and the World Racing Network on there. Never hurts, and gets you airtime just like that. It is a new look as well. Talked about it for Johnny Eckert. Has Owl City on that car. Good to see. New look. Getting away from those all three that's Outlaw Racing teammates running the exact same paint scheme. I think they're different tonight. Yes, they are. DJ Weeks still running the classic colors. Jake Bustos has a special scheme. We will let him talk about that later on at the stage break, which will be coming at the end of lap 30 here tonight. One more lap around this short track. The pace car goes 2 laps here at Richmond. I'm looking forward to this one, Garrett, because Johnny Eckert, we talked about the last short track we ran, New Hampshire. Dominant car, very fast. J.D. Laird was in the booth with me for that race, so we didn't get to see these two race it out on the last short track. I think tonight will be a very good one. And then look back at row 2, Jason Gracias and Philip Scott, 2 incredible short track racers. In all the broadcasts I've watched, it seems like both of them always up in contention. This is a very strong field.
Oh, sorry, Mitchell. I'm definitely keeping an eye on row 2. Philip Scott, in my experience here, has been one of the few people I've seen able to work that second and third groove work, especially in turns 1 and 2. Jason Gracias, we talked about how good he is on old tires. Let's see if they can keep pace with these 2 very talented drivers in front of them as we're getting ready to go green. Here we go.
Green flag waves, and Johnny Eckert going to lead the field down into turns number 1 and 2. It was a good start for all drivers up at the front of the field. Eckert going to use that shorter way around the racetrack through 1 and 2 to clear J.D. Laird for the race lead, but Laird is right there on his bumper as they head down into 3 and 4. Then it is Jason Gracias who got around Philip Scott. Philip settles into 4th with DJ Weeks right behind him in 5th. This is a pretty calm restart. Obviously some battles for position, but already the field pretty much gone down to single file. I would say that's pretty uncharacteristic for Richmond. Usually we expect some pretty intense first lap battles, but these drivers being pretty patient here in the early going, just trying to get to the stage break, it seems.
Yeah, that's always I think, the correct strategy, Mitchell. Just find your spot, feel your car out, and then at the stage break, get your fresh tires and be able to make the adjustments. We see some guys getting squirrely back in the field, but there is no reason to force the issue here. I mean, track position is important, but if you have enough speed in your race car, you are not going to go a lap down by lap 30. So just find your spot and do the best you can.
Vincent Valvano and Chuck Sweeting have a pretty good battle going on here for the 14th position. Benny had a good run last week at Talladega, if memory serves me right. We saw him mixing it up there. And then Chuck Sweeting, the new face to the league. A nice looking car for Sweeting. That's 75. I believe it's a Chevy. Yes, it is. He'll take the position down in turn number 1. That moves Sweeting up into 14th. And I am curious to see how quickly this 75 will move his way up through the field. Started in 18th. After 5 laps, runs in 14th. But the fastest car in practice so far, it seems to be the slow, methodical approach through the field, which is very safe. Nothing at all wrong with that. I like that if it were me too. Up at the front of the field, it's still Johnny Eckert, followed by J.D. Laird and Jason Gracias. These top 3 broken away a little bit from Philip Scott, who runs in 4th place. And that's also going back to the short track at New Hampshire. That's what we saw, was a top 3 or 4 car breakaway. And then the rest of the field kind of battled as Bill Edwards gets into the wall out of turn 2.
Sorry, Mitchell, I was not hitting the mic there, but yeah, Bill got a little squirrely. It's not the type of birthday, the type of rubbing you want on yourself during the birthday. I think maybe we could get him some entertainment that's much better than that, but I think Bill will be okay. Didn't look to be too bad. Thuggy there, the 17, also someone that I think has run well here historically, and he hasn't really had that show me race yet this season, and I've been waiting for him to break through with one. So this is one of your last chances to sneak up on people before the chase begins.
Yeah, Tristan Maher, in terms of points, he's had an all-right season as well. He's trying to find him on the list, actually, down in 15th. Hasn't made all the starts. That's where the points kind of got away from him here, but still been very consistent, especially as of late in that 17 machine. Looking through the field, trying to see if there are any battles going on. Bob Giaquinto and Matthew Rodriguez here for the 9th position. These two pretty close to one another. Also back for the 13th position, you've got Jamar Dumas and Chuck Sweeting going at it. Sweeting going to work through the inside in turn number 1. Set his sights now on Paul Bilson in the double O.
Looks like these guys have a good group there, mixing it up towards the rear of the field, trying to put yourself in position if you do get close to going a lap down. You want to be that first car lap down, get our Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award. But Sweeting's doing one of those strategies where I'm new to this league. I think I'm going to field these guys out, see if they race clean. I mean, if you watched any of our past broadcasts here on the World Racing Network, you will see that the Total Nonstop Racing Schue Lawn Care Grand National Series is clean racing. We have a lot of green flag runs, but maybe you don't have that background. So, hey, field out a little bit. These first 3 laps are a perfect trial, and then see if you can make up a couple spots on pit road, put yourself near the top 5, and then go at it from there.
Jason Gracias just got around J.D. Laird on that last lap to work himself up into the 2nd position. Out in the race lead, Johnny Eckert is stretched out to a 1-second lead over 2nd place Jason Gracias. J.D. Laird slipping back a little bit now. Behind them, you see Philip Scott and DJ Weeks. Weeks trying to put a little bit of pressure now on Philip Scott in the World Ninja League Ford. And we've seen a lot of great runs from Philip as well through this regular season. The thing that's really stood out about him, we talk about it a lot, just how patient he's been and how much his racecraft has improved through the season. I'd put him in the category. He's shown a lot of discipline, maybe one of the most disciplined drivers this season in terms of patience and waiting for the right time to make moves. And you see here, he's got DJ Weeks all over his mirror, but for the time being, Scott doing a good job hitting his marks and keeping it in line as we are already past halfway to the stage break. Lap 16 again, if you've just tuned in. Our stage tonight going to be at the end of lap 30. Driver's going to come in and get 4 fresh Goodyear tires on these race cars.
Just want to go back to Philip Scott here, Mitchell. Like you said, showing a lot of maturity this season is perhaps we saw JD into the wall there in front of him. And it's actually been so incredible for me, from a league administrator and a friend of Philip's, to just know like the different messages I get from him. He used to have a bad race and I get messages he'd be down on himself. Now he has a bad race or something doesn't go his way. I'm going to win the next one. I know what I have to do better. I got this. I mean, he had every reason to be upset after Phoenix and let his season go into a downward spiral. What did he do? He picked himself up, dusted himself off, and he got back out there, and he's been putting some tremendous runs together, Mitchell, and that's what you love to see.
And this is the right time in the season to be doing that, too. We've seen it all through the season, but Philip in the last couple of races has put together some very good performances for himself. Last week at Talladega was a 10th place finish. New Hampshire the week before, 16th. That one didn't go quite the way he wanted. But looking back past that, you've got an 8th and then 2 top 5 finishes for Philip Scott. So the consistency is definitely there at the right time, and second in points. Very safe probably to make the playoffs here. And so far, a good run for him here again tonight as we check back up on the battle for the lead. Jason Gracias still about where we last looked in on these two. Just under a second now separates your top 2 drivers. The thing at New Hampshire that separated Johnny Eckert from the field was the long run pace, particularly on the final run when he stretched it out to a 10-second advantage by the end of the race. And we'll be curious to see if he's able to do that here tonight. Jason Gracias, known to be a very good tire saver, as is JD Laird, but Laird appears to be falling off here in this early run as he is again into the turn 2 wall. That opens the door for Philip Scott to look up the inside into turn number 3. Looks like Laird will carry the momentum in the outside and keep that position. He does. But this is a little uncharacteristic for JD Laird in the early going. Now 2 seconds behind your race leader, Johnny Eckert. That's not something we're used to seeing from him, but again, it is early in this race, and when we do a full green flag run, if we get one, it would be a lot longer than 30 laps. But still a little surprising to see.
Absolutely surprising, Mitchell. You don't see JD outside of the top 2 very often, so either the setup, the way his car's handling is giving him some fits right now, but he's a good enough driver and so smart as far as figuring out his race car that I think he'll be good once he gets to pit road, and maybe he might have a little bit of damage from scuffing the wall too. He can get that fixed. But battle behind them, Philip Scott and DJ Weeks there side by side. We'll see how they're pulled off. Like I mentioned, Philip's pretty good at running that outside lane here from my experiences with him, but he's fighting back.
Looks like Weeks out of the turn, able to clear Philip Scott. James Lorello not too far behind these drivers as DJ Weeks moves up into the 4th position. This is a track where you can make either the high lane or the low line work. There isn't necessarily a groove we come in here and say, oh, that's going to be way better than the high line or way better than the low line. As you see these drivers work past Robert Tripp. Currently, Tripp, the only car 1 lap down, which would give him the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award in about 5 laps. Might not be the case, though, as you've got these two battling. This is Jason Schue and Paul Bilson. A little ways behind them, about 3 seconds behind them, is your race leader, Johnny Eckert. I think they will be good for 3 more laps, but we will wait and see. Here is Eckert, who is extending his lead over Jason Gracias now to 1.5 seconds. And looking at the lap times and the gap between these two drivers, Gracias is driving into the corner much harder than Johnny Eckert is, but Eckert is able to get the throttle down on exit and really pull it back away. And so far, that's been the difference, is Eckert is gaining more time on exit than Jason Gracias is on corner entry.
Being able to carry that momentum, there's not huge straightaways here at Richmond, but it's certainly making a difference as far as the 90 versus the 1 battle. And wow, there's quite a battle here back in the field. J.D. Laird, DJ Weeks, Philip Scott, James Lorello, and Tristan Maher all under a blanket. Wow, where did they come from?
And Bill Edwards right behind him, too. This is a 6-car battle for the 3rd position with the white flag in the stage waving. DJ Weeks, when we cut to this battle, was all the way below that yellow line on the apron trying to pass J.D. Laird, and now down the back straightaway for the final time. Laird looks to be safe. Maher going to make the move on Philip Scott. Crossing the line now is Johnny Eckert. He wins the stage. Maher will clear Scott to finish 6th in the stage. Stage caution waves, and that was an exciting ending here from this group of cars, 3rd through 8th. In the stage, it is Johnny Eckert picking up the win. Jason Gracias finishes in 2nd, J.D. Laird 3rd, DJ Weeks 4th, James Lorello 5th, Tristan Thuggy Maher 6th, Philip Scott 7th, and Bill Edwards 8th will be the drivers scoring points under this stage. New look for Johnny Eckert, but so far the same pace we've come to expect from him all season long. Paul Bilson there in the 00 will be the recipient here of the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award under this caution. Should be, assuming he doesn't go into pit here, which he shouldn't.
That's interesting. I'm not really sure. Did he park it?
He did.
So that might give Robert Tripp the lucky dog. I would hope that even if the game does not give Robert Tripp the lucky dog, that our race control would wave him around. It looks like that's what's going to happen. So good for you, Robert Tripp, the recipient of the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award.
Yeah, good break for Robert Tripp here. You see a little damage on the right side. We've seen a lot of drivers get into that wall here tonight, exiting the corners. As everybody is down pit road here under this caution, all the lead lap drivers as Tripp goes around to take his lucky dog. Bilson pulled off the track. Don't know what's going on. Hope everything is all right for the driver of that 00. Race off pit road. One, I do believe, by Johnny Eckert. Yes, it is.
I think we have an interview lined
Yes.
up here with Johnny Eckert's teammate, Jake Bustos. It's a tragedy near to him, and I think it would be best for him to obviously speak about it. So Mitchell's going to grab Jake here. We'll let him say a few words here for a couple fallen members of the military.
Looking for him. I'm not actually seeing Jake.
Yep, I'll grab him if you want.
That'd be good.
Hey Jake, it's Garrett and Mitchell up here in the booth. We got you on our World Racing Network broadcast. I know you wanted to say a few words here about your special paint scheme, and we'll just let you have the floor.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. Unfortunately, Wednesday last week, there were 9 individuals with Charlie Company, 6 of the 101st Aviation Regiment. They affectionately known as Dust Off. They're the birds that provide life-saving support. They died in a training accident, and I just have their company logo on the hood just to kind of commemorate them and just let them know that they're still in our hearts. It's unfortunate. I work right alongside of them, so you know, when you lose members of your family, it's always hard, especially in something that's not combat related. So just running a car for them tonight.
Well, that's certainly. I'm certainly appreciative of you. You know, looking after your family and such a tragic loss and sporting that paint scheme. And I hope you're able to put a good run for them. Sure, hopefully everybody's on your side rooting for you tonight, and maybe you'll get that bridesmaid moniker off for a tremendous cause. It would make a heck of a story. But
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
good luck. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, sometimes Mitchell, things are a little bigger than iRacing and YouTube and everything else, and it's just one of those things that when it happens as close to you as it did to Jake, it just makes you reevaluate your position in this world. So Jake probably getting a much needed break from real life here and running that number 74 with a tremendous cause on the hood.
Yes, and we thank him for all he does and all the people he worked with, and our condolences out to the family and friends of those involved in that accident. Green flag back in the air for Johnny Eckert here down into turn number 1 and 2. He holds the lead over JD Laird. Laird very loose out of the corner. Manages to gather it back up, and not before Jason Gracias works through in the outside lane. Move that one car back right to where he left off that stage in the second position. Now the battle once again goes to these positions back behind him. You see a hornet's nest around Philip Scott. Just looking off the back of Philip as he exits the corner underneath Tristan Thuggy Maher. Excuse me, I believe it's Chuck Sweeting, actually, that's to the outside of Philip. Yes, it is. Sweeting will make the pass. That 75 is a man on a mission. Started in 18th, now up to 6th with that pass on Maher. See just how close off this rear bumper cam that iRacing is loving to show us here tonight. Just how close Tristan got off of that corner. And a little bit loose as he tries to cut under Lorello. This 75, he can put it wherever he wants to go. And that car seems to stick for the most part as he works around Lorello, now up into the top 5. Moving up quickly here. Not quite what we saw that first stage before. He was very calmly and slowly working his way. But now that stage break is out of the way. And that 75 is on the move.
Yeah, he's doing it the right way out there, one at a time. Respectful passes. I love to see that from a racing and administrative perspective. Mitchell, at this point, though, you have to think, okay, I started so deep in the field. We had a 30-lap run. I knew that caution was coming. Well, there are no more stage breaks here. This could turn into a green to the finish type of race. So, like, you need to make your passes when they're bunched up together on this restart. That's exactly what that 75 is doing. Riding on board here with James Lorello. James is a player in this. You saw him come on late towards the end of that stage. I've been keeping my eye on him and the 17 of Tristan Maher, but all eyes are on that 75 right now.
Yeah, he's the unknown variable here. You've been racing with most of these drivers throughout the season up to this point, but that 75's a brand new face. You don't know what to expect to him, and really that can work to the advantage of Chuck Sweeting here as he starts to put pressure on DJ Weeks for the 4th position. You're exactly right about there being no more guaranteed cautions. This could be, for all you know, a 90-lap run to the finish or 80-lap run to the finish here. So you've got to think in the back of your mind that you don't want to push it too hard here in these opening laps. And unfortunately, drivers like Sweeting here, starting a little further back, if you want to go get up to the lead, you got to push really hard. So it's about just slowly and methodically working your way through the field, but at the same time pushing really hard to get through the field. It's such a fine line that these drivers have to run here in this situation. And you see, I think that 75 has calmed down a little bit now behind Weeks. We know he's got the pace here, of course. As you get further up in the field, it becomes more difficult to make these passes. DJ Weeks going to be the hardest guy to pass he's faced yet until he gets up to JD Laird in 3rd. If he does, then he will be the hardest guy to pass, and so on. And that's just the constant battle as you see Robert Tripp going back 1 lap down now. JD Laird in 3rd works around him. Out front, it's still Johnny Eckert who has led the majority of this race, if not all of it. Behind Jason Gracias, who is once again a second back, a familiar place for Gracias. Laird hanging with him much closer so far this run on the nose of JD Laird. And then it's DJ Weeks and Chuck Sweeting, your top 5. Back behind them, James Lorello, Tristan Maher is in 7th. Philip Scott, Matthew Rodriguez, and Jake Bustos round out your top 10. Bustos up 2 since the restart. Then it is the birthday boy, Bill Edwards, running in the 11th position. Jamar Dumas runs in 12th. Vincent Valvano, the Talkin' Giants car, 13th. Mike Floppy Tellier in 14th. Tabletop Trio Machine Bob Giaquinto is 15th. Jason Schue 16th and 1 lap down. Robert Tripp runs in 17th. Steven Doziak Jr. and Paul Bilson off the track here tonight, 18th and 19th.
Some guys deeper in the field, Mitchell, that I expected to be having a little better run. I mean, Bill outside the top 10 now. Floppy's back there. Jamar's just having a very unlucky season. And even my good friend Vincent Valvano in that beautiful Talking Giants number 64 Ford is struggling for the handle here. This is not an easy racetrack to drive. But, I mean, that's why our schedule has variety in it, Mitchell. You're not going to be great everywhere you go unless you're just an absolute professional. But just want to give another shout out to Bobby Skinner, Justin Pennick, the Talking Giants crew for coming on board here with Vinny. I contacted them about Vinny. I said, you know, I see a lot of talent in Vinny. Vinny's like the type of guy that you want to be behind and sponsor, because he's going to get there, and he's going to be one of those drivers that are competing for a win. And he's a great guy, great friend, and I love to see it. And it might not be the run he's looking for tonight in the Talking Giants number 64, but he's going to have some good runs, Mitchell. I pretty much would bet my reputation on it.
Yeah, Vincent Valvano, it's been a great season for him, and even when the results aren't quite there, he's put up some fantastic runs, got that car up to the front of the field. He's got a top 5 this season, 5 top 10 finishes, and some of those races where the results didn't quite work out, we've seen a lot of him up at the front of the field. Sometimes even through the pit strategies, has worked his way through the field, got some laps up toward the front. It's been a very good season for Vincent Valvano. We've talked about him a lot and how impressive he's been as he does battle with Mike Tellier for the 13th position. And Tellier's another driver, very surprising not to see him further up in the field. I know he loves to sit back and then late in the race make his charge toward the front, but right now, Tellier started 11th, 14th. He just seems a little bit stuck back in the field at this point in the race, which is a little bit surprising for that 47.
Very surprising. This has been one of Mike's most consistent seasons. We've been seeing him up near the top 5 pretty much every race so far. So clearly missed something with the handle here on that 47. This is not the typical run from Mike. Let's see here. Well, we were riding along with him for a second. I just want to see maybe there's a handling characteristic or some sort of issue he was having, but just looks like not with the pace, Mitchell.
And sometimes you just have those nights. Not every track's a good one for you. I know Richmond was always a track I tended to struggle at a little bit when I ran, which was surprising because short tracks were usually my place where I could count on a consistent run for sure, but this track is so hit or miss sometimes, and it can even be down to just what's the temperature of the racetrack that affects how your car is and what the line you take, how that's able to translate into some pace. Robert Tripp down pit road in the 35, pits from 1 lap down. Johnny Eckert has been the class of the field once again here tonight. He sits 2 seconds in front of Jason Gracias now. On lap number 58 of 110, we are about 30 laps into this final stage, if you will. Stage break was on lap 30, and so far it doesn't look like anyone has the pace to challenge Eckert here, as they're battling for second place, Jason Gracias and JD Laird. But as they do battle here, that just allows Eckert to slip further away, and the long-run pace we're accustomed to from J.D. Laird, where he just seems to outpace everyone, it doesn't seem like he quite has that tonight. Still, third place speed, he's still very fast. I guess he's just set the expectation so high for us that the third place run is a little surprising here as he tries to make the move up Jason Gracias' inside.
Man, I wish I was at the point in my career, Mitchell, where third place was disappointing. 13th place would be a heck of a run for me, but you're absolutely right. The bar is set so high with some of these guys, especially JD, that when they're not right up there battling for the lead, you just figure something is wrong. And it looks like there is, speaking of something wrong, there's a yellow out on the racetrack, Mitchell. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, we've got a caution on the racetrack, and we are going to look headed into turn number 1. This is Robert Tripp trying to get on the brakes into the corner and just goes for a little bit of a slide. Good work by Vincent Valvano and Bob Giaquinto to get around the spinning Tripp sitting in the middle of the track, but that will bring out the first caution for cause here tonight. And we'll go on board with him That, Garrett, is just an example of that loose condition we've talked about coming back to bite you.
You just said he was on pit road, correct? Fresh tires, maybe bias adjusted or something that he just didn't expect it to come around on him that quick. Maybe his braking point was a little off, and tough break for Robert. He's having a rough night out there in that beautiful Total Nonstop Racing and World Racing Network sponsored 35 car.
Yeah. Robert Tripp had just been down pit road, I believe, on cold tires, and that sometimes happens too. The car is at its loosest here when it's set up to be that way. When the tires are fresh, don't have laps on them, and they're not quite rubbered in, and cars like to go around. I've been a victim to that many times in my career. As JD Laird going to pace the field here around in the race lead, Johnny Eckert. We had a mixed bag of strategy here. Took me a minute to get readjusted to this order. So, some strategy calls from a couple drivers here. You're 30 laps into this run. I don't know how many, I assume 3 tire sets tonight, Garrett. You can correct me on that in just a second. Yes, there we go. Good guesswork on my part. JD Laird in the 46 stays out. Philip Scott stays out. Matt Rod stays out. Jake Bustos and Tristan Maher also stay out on the track. So those 5 will be on older tires. And the rest of the field now will be on fresh tires. So your top 5 on 30-lap old tires. Garrett, what do you think about that pit strategy? It's definitely gutsy here with quite a few laps left in this race.
It's gutsy, but it might be all that you can do to beat that number 90 because he's been so fast. So you're gonna put him back in traffic, could get into some sort of incident, which I hope not. He doesn't deserve that to happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm just stating it's possible now. Guys on old tires spin the tires, but you're these guys that stayed out like JD Laird, Matt Rod, everybody up here. You want this race to maybe go, maybe 15, 20 laps, be able to come in, put tires on, have that advantage. But if those guys also come in and put their set of tires on, then you still have one left if another yellow comes. But you're going to want this to be pretty evenly split out here. So guys have to make that hard decision if they're going to put their last set of tires on when you still have 2 left.
And these drivers who pit here will still have a set of tires in their pit boxes. The drivers who pit or did not pit have 2. The drivers who pit have 1. I think I messed that up. So, pace car lights go out. 1 lap until we go back. Green flag. JD Laird, Philip Scott will make up the front row. These 2 have been running inside the top 5 all race long. You've got a mixed bag of drivers here, too. You've got those 2 who've been running up front. Matthew Rodriguez, Jake Bustos, and Tristan Maher. They've kind of been running all in the top 10, but kind of a little more scattered out through the field. But now those 5 will start from the front of the field. Johnny Eckert and Chuck Sweeting on row number 4, the first drivers on fresh tires, as the iRacing pace car pulls down pit road, and we are green flag in the happy 48th birthday Bill 150. JD Laird out to a fantastic start in the race lead. Philip Scott and Jake Bustos come very close together for second place. Eckert already making moves on those fresh tires. He's through to 3rd. Should make quick work here of Philip Scott. Fresh tires here at Richmond. Very, very much faster. The fall off happens so quickly here. And just for a bit of an example too, although they are in traffic and it is early, Philip Scott last lap was a 23.411. Johnny Eckert a 22.948. So in traffic, half a second faster already now. Working up past JD Laird for the race lead. It took, 3 laps for Johnny Eckert to get back out into the lead on fresh tires?
Yeah, it did not take long, Mitchell, but this is kind of expected when you're JD Laird, Philip Scott. You didn't expect this was a race-winning move right now. Like I said, you want this to balance itself out. You want to maintain some track position here, but have the tire advantage near the end. Look at the gaggle of cars that our newcomer in the 75, Chuck Sweeting, is dealing with right now. You have Jake Bustos, Matthew Rodriguez on old tires, and you are just pinched in, and do you want to make it 3 wide and take that chance? Well, kind of sorted itself out here, but we see Jason Gracias also maybe looking to a third groove. That would be a heck of a pass.
And you have the opposite end of the spectrum here. You have Johnny Eckert, who is able to slice and dice the field on fresh tires. Chuck Sweeting restarted right beside him, but he got caught up in some not as good situations, got stuck side by side, and he is still in 5th place. Whereas Eckert has already driven out a 2.5 in the race lead. If you were Sweeting or any of those other drivers who pit, like Jason Gracias, you were hoping to keep up with that race leader, but unfortunately, he has not been able to do so here. Talking Giants in the chat, glad to see you guys here joining us for tonight's race. We're getting into the second half of it. Take a look at that Talking Giants car. Vinny Valvano mixing it up here. He's in the 13th position, but you see Tristan Maher right in front of him, along with Jake Bustos, Jamar Dumas, and several others here. This is the battle for the top 10. Maher on old tires, so is Bustos here in this group.
You know what, Mitchell, just we're looking at Talking Giants. So what a top-notch podcast Bobby and Justin put on pretty much a couple times a week. I've been subscribed to their Patreon since the very beginning, and you can't beat those guys, especially with draft season coming up. And what happened to that bum, Jimbo, and Stay Tuned Sports that used to sponsor this league? He doesn't even show up this week. I mean, he beats me now and then, he gets cocky, and then he doesn't show up. I don't know what the deal is with him.
We got to get Jimbo back out on the track. There's only so many races left in the season. That is Vincent Valvano, who still runs in 13th. The battle now with Bustos, who is on older tires, and also Matthew Rodriguez. Up in the race lead, it's Johnny Eckert, who continues to charge away from now DJ Weeks, who is on fresh tires. First car on old tires, J.D. Laird runs in 6th. The birthday boy, Bill Edwards, trying to get by him. James Lorello up in the top 5. Haven't talked about him too much. He was a part of that great battle to end the stage. He's trying to get around Jason Gracias. Chuck Sweeting is in the 3rd position. DJ Weeks again holding on to 2nd for the time being. Philip Scott also doing a good job hanging in on older tires. He runs in 8th. And again, Matthew Rodriguez 10th. Now Bustos 11th. There's a good battle going on between Vinny Valvano and the Tabletop Trio machine. It's the battle of the podcast. Actually, that is Jake Bustos. Bob Giaquinto is running right behind them in the Tabletop Trio machine. I've always said we do good with podcasts and we do good with graphics designers here in TNR. Got a lot of great sponsors represented here in the field tonight. And the new look for the Tabletop Trio machine of Bob Giaquinto here.
It's pretty cool, Mitchell. These guys with the predominantly football podcast, Talking Giants and Stay Tuned Sports, getting involved in iRacing and motorsports. Bobby from Talking Giants, big into NASCAR, wants to expand, his iRacing portfolio of drivers and whatnot. It's nice to see the crossover because my two passions were always, Giants football, but football in general, and racing. And it seems like a lot of people are of the same mentality. But we have way too many Eagles fans in this league, Mitchell.
Hey, I'm always open. If there are any other Colts fans here, you can totally get in on the bandwagon, although I don't know why you would at this point, but it'll be a building year. We're building. That's the narrative now. And a great battle here between Valvano and trying to run down Matthew Rodriguez. Again, Rodriguez on the older tires. He's gotten around Bustos, as has Bob Giaquinto now. Trying to make work of Matthew Rodriguez here off into turn number 1. Valvano up the inside. Rodriguez on the outside in the Goose Toyota. Had the Goose 160 last week at Talladega. That was a pretty good race. As always, Talladega does not disappoint. Vinny runs him up the track just a little bit. And he's going to clear Rodriguez for the 10th position now. So Vinny cracks the top 10. Matt Rod trying to fight back up the inside lane. But I have a feeling those fresh tires on Vincent Valvano should prevail here. And Philip Scotty sets his sights in on now, also on older tires. Good battle going on in front of these two as well between J.D. Laird and Jamar Dumas. Those two running bumper to bumper. Now Dumas up the inside of J.D. Laird. This is the battle for the 7th position. Jamar Dumas able to make that pass. J.D. Laird again here falling off on the long run, excuse me. Uncharacteristic of that JDR graphics machine. But tonight, it has been short run pace, not so much the long run pace for J.D. Laird, as Jamar Dumas will work his way past. And we have seen that 46 up into the wall a couple times as he gets a little wiggle there off the corner. I don't think that has too much, Garrett. Typically, when we go to these short tracks, the aero not as important. But how about Jamar Dumas, too? We talk a lot about how he's just struggled to get the luck on his side. Has not been the season he wanted to have here, but so far tonight, a solid top 10 run, running in 7th place. You got to be happy so far if you're Jamar Dumas now with almost 25 laps to go.
I'm glad you said it, Mitchell, because I did not want to say it, but Jamar having a solid run, not getting involved in anyone else's mayhem out there, probably feels great. And I'm not going to jinx him, but it seems like he's working his way up towards the top 5. And I think if he could get to the top 5, I think that would be a very special run for that 28 who has had such bad luck. And here comes the strategy, Mitchell. Jason Gracias first to pit road. You're going to see if he can take advantage of some fresh tires on that #1 Max Graphic Camaro.
This is interesting because I thought they were good to the end of the race on fuel. Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure they are. Either way, Jason Gracias down pit road here. From the 3rd position, we'll see if anyone follows him down. Johnny Eckert is first and Chuck Sweeting is second. Now that Gracias is pit, DJ Weeks up to 3rd. I think Johnny Eckert has led, except for that pit strategy where some drivers stayed out, every lap of this race. Another dominant performance for Eckert, who is looking to clock win number, I believe, 3. I'm going to double check that. Yeah, win number 3. I gotta trust in myself a little bit. This would be the hat trick win for him this season. He would be just the 3rd driver to win 3 or more races. He would join Mike Tellier with 3 and J.D. Laird with 5. Chuck Sweeting is hanging in there, though, keeping pace with him. These two almost identical on lap time, but the track position just in favor of Johnny Eckert at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like Johnny's just played the strategy right, and as long as some crazy yellows that we haven't had, it seems like this is certainly his race to lose. But the 75 of Sweeting, what an impressive debut, Mitchell, to put yourself in a position to compete with the likes of J.D. Laird, Johnny Eckert, Jason Gracias, and so on up here in the top 3. Just proves that if he decides to make Total Nonstop Racing a permanent home, that we're going to have someone else competing for multiple wins throughout the course of the season.
This is a league full of very talented race car drivers. Everyone in here, very good. We've got great, clean racing every Monday night. And a welcome addition, Chuck Sweeting, if he decides to stay around here through the end of the season. Having a good run here tonight and running down your race leader, Johnny Eckert, just a little bit. We'll go to the WRN head-to-head graphic here. You can see the lap time between Johnny Eckert and Chuck Sweeting. That last lap, Sweeting just a little bit faster, about a half a tenth faster than Eckert. This time through Sector 1, Johnny faster. But you see, he's faster, but it's by 0.0 on the graphic. They're running basically identical lap times here. Again, Sector 2.0 faster. That is how tight the time is. In fact, Sweeting again just barely runs him in a little bit there through that first sector, and that's just how tight it is. If we were to get a caution here and bunch the field back up, any of these guys in the top 5, really, I would say DJ Weeks, James Lorello, Bill Edwards, these are guys who could win the race. And we've seen a lot of great performances from them, and when you throw out saving for the long run, that tends to bring a lot of good speed. And talk about Bill Edwards, too. We talked about him not having the night he wanted, running outside the top 10. Well, now he runs in 5th place. Not a bad comeback for his birthday.
No, not a bad comeback at all, Mitchell, but there's only so much that birthday cake can do for you if you're Bill Edwards, because when he was born, Mitchell, his second birthday, he was actually able to ride a dinosaur at like a petting zoo that they used to have. But nowadays, I mean, all he gets is probably cake and maybe some loving from his family.
The Windsors are out in the chat. Earlier on in the broadcast said, "Go Bill," and happy birthday, Bill. We've also had Sam Young, Talking Giants, and Garrett Gleason out in the chat. Thank you all for talking with us. I know I haven't been as active looking at the chat tonight, but we love to hear from you. It's always fun to talk to people. That's fun, part of the job. With 15 laps to go now in this race, Jason Gracias is still the only driver who has come down pit road. And I'm still very curious about the strategy stop from Gracias, because he was one of those drivers who had pit for fresh tires under the caution we had. Now, the question I do have is whether the drivers J.D. Laird, Philip Scott, Tristan Maher, Matthew Rodriguez, Jake Bustos, those 5 that stayed out, they have currently been on the track 65 laps on this set of tires and fuel. There's still 15 to go. That would make it an 80-lap run to the end. I have to imagine that is pretty close to the fuel window here tonight.
Yeah, it's about a 75% fuel load I think I gave these guys, so that is probably right on the borderline, and depending on how hard you pushed and whatnot, I could see these guys potentially needing fuel. But the Gracias stop is kind of curious, Mitchell. I guess we would have to do some investigative work if we had a pit reporter or somebody in the chat that would be able to figure out why the number 1 had to stop there, especially if he stopped in the previous yellow.
Vincent Valvano, a couple laps ago, worked his way past J.D. Laird. Valvano has had a very good run here up into the 8th position. He started 17th too, did not qualify, I don't believe. So it's been a very good run for Vincent Valvano. Again, showing that consistency and the slow and methodical pace we've come to see from him that's given him so many good finishes this season. Laird gonna fight back now, because when you get this deep in the run too, the thing working for those drivers on old tires, everybody's tires are hot, slick, and worn out, and the fall off kind of tends to even out, and that's why I think we're seeing J.D. Laird able to hang with these guys. Bob Giaquinto right behind them as well, and you've got a good side-by-side battle. Vinny working that third groove really in the outside.
Yeah, run side by side here, Mitchell, for a long time. You guys end up creeping up, and that's exactly what we see. Bob Giaquinto creeping his way up into this battle, and it looks like JD made the pass on Vinny, and Vinny's got to get with that Talking Giants culture of violence. Vinny is too much of a gentleman at times, Mitchell, and I'd like to see him just get a little more intensity, but we're going to work on that one.
Good battle as well going on between Philip Scott and Tristan Thuggy Maher. This the battle for 11th. Both these drivers on that alternative pit strategy did not pit under the caution we had about lap 60. And they are working toward the tail end of the lead lap. Currently, the first car 1 lap down, Jake Bustos, in position for the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award were we to get a caution. The 5 drivers who did not pit are all running together 11th to 14th here, except for J.D. Laird, who is in 8th place after getting around Vincent Valvano. But a good 3-car battle again. Now Matthew Rodriguez gets put 1 lap down by race leader Johnny Eckert, who is working his way toward Tristan Maher and Philip Scott as that battle continues. At the battling side by side, that is only bringing Eckert faster, even quicker. But pretty soon, this could be the battle for the Lucky Dog, although it is getting very late in the race, 6 laps to go.
Wow, Tristan's very loose there. These guys are hanging on these old tires, and it's only a matter of time. And the 90 of Johnny Eckert's just hoping these guys sort this out ahead of him, that he doesn't have to make this 3 wide here for a pass, but he's going to have to make it stick here on the bottom. But I think these guys are mature enough to give him some room.
Johnny Eckert up the inside of Tristan Maher, puts Philip Scott 1 lap down. Matthew Rodriguez in the wall behind him now. Tristan Maher 1 lap down, very loose through the corner, almost got into your race leader. They keep it clean though. 3 laps to go for Johnny Eckert en route to yet another dominant victory here on a short track. His wins this season, to the best of my memory, I know he won at New Hampshire, and I'm pretty sure the other one was Dover. Yes, it was Dover. So with a win here tonight, it would be 3 quote-unquote short tracks. I think New Hampshire would be up for debate, but 3 short track wins for Johnny Eckert. Clearly has a little bit of a niche going on. He's fast everywhere, but the tracks he's been able to get over that hump and get the win. Short track so far this season. Again, Vinny Valvano and Bob Giaquinto going at it now for the 9th position, battling inside the top 10. But we are on 1 lap to go for your race leader here, Johnny Eckert, out of turn 2 for the final time now through 3 and 4. A well-deserved dominant victory here for Johnny Eckert in the happy 48th birthday Bill 150. He will cross the line, take the checkered flag. Johnny Eckert picks up the win here tonight over Chuck Sweeting in 2nd and DJ Weeks in 3rd. Are your podium finishers. We'll watch this battle coming to the line between Valvano and Giaquinto. Bob not quite able to get up to Vinny. He pulled away in the final laps, and Vincent Valvano holds on to 9th over Bob Giaquinto in 10th. A pretty good race here tonight. Again, Garrett, we've seen a lot of great races. Already celebrating is Johnny Eckert here. A well-deserved celebration again. He dominated this race here tonight.
Yeah, what a domination by Johnny Eckert in that number 90. I believe he's still with Outlaw Racing, but maybe not. But incredible. He's becoming the short track king here at Total Nonstop Racing, and he played the strategy right, had the best car all night long, and there's nothing to not, you should be able to brag when you win a race against guys that are as talented as the ones we have in the field. And it looks like he's done this before. He's parked exactly where he needs to be, and we'll have to send one of our famous pit reporters out there to get a word here in a little bit.
Yep, we're going to get some post-race interviews dialed up for you here really quickly. All these top 3, the podium finishers here tonight, very fast about getting into the interview waiting line. So a big thank you to that. Makes my life a whole lot easier. We're going to kick things off with the 3rd place finisher here in tonight's race, DJ Weeks. DJ Weeks, it's Mitchell and Garrett up in the WRN booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
A great run for you here tonight. Again, a good showing for you guys at Outlaw Racing. A 1-3 finish here. And it was a good, consistent run for you. You qualified 5th, ran up in the top 5 all night long. Just smooth and consistent seemed to be the strategy for you here tonight.
Yeah, I still don't know what I'm doing in 1 and 2 here. I feel like I got 3 and 4 down, but 1 and 2, they gained 2/10 on me every lap. And I was like, all right, well, cool. I'll just sit here in 5th. And then the caution came out, and I was like, well, you can't really stay out with the fall off. So somehow I was able to get a 3rd, and good finish.
Yeah, 3rd place. Another great run for you. We've seen a lot of great runs for you in this season. You said you didn't expect to be able to stay out there in the closing laps. Was there any thought at all about joining those drivers down pit road, or were you pretty set on not pitting? Because one of your teammates did pit, so I wasn't sure.
Oh, the second caution, I knew I was pitting, because 30 laps here with a second and some change fall off is just, you don't want to be out there with that. But if the caution never came out, I was not pitting the rest of the night. Because you could have went about 85 laps or so on fuel, so we would have been dirt tracking. But I hate this track. I mean, I live an hour from it, and I hate it. It either works for me or it don't. And tonight was just, got lucky that some people stayed out that were in front of me, and yeah, bring home 3rd.
Yeah, 3rd place, a great finish here tonight at Richmond. Looking ahead to, I believe you all have the LCQ next week. Our next broadcasted race will be at Texas, going back to 1.5 miles. How do you feel about that track?
Which Texas?
Good question. Garrett?
We'll have to have a poll on that, Mitchell. I don't necessarily have a preference, so we'll talk to the drivers. Whichever one is the most racy and fun, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, I mean, New Texas is all right. I mean, it's just you slow down so much in 1 and 2, it becomes really tire saving. But the Legacy Texas, man, it's fun with the banking, kind of like Old Charlotte, where you just hang it out there, or Orlando, you just hang it out and hope it sticks. And people are going to be getting loose all over the place. So I mean, either one's I guess okay. Obviously, I wish they'd blow that track up in real life. So prefer not to run the new one, but well, who knows? Maybe I'll be in the playoffs after this Coliseum. I have no expectations for that. So who knows? Maybe I'll be in the playoffs and can make a run for something.
We're looking forward to seeing it. Before I let you go here tonight, though, DJ, I'll give you a chance to give any shout-outs you'd like to.
Yeah, thanks for you guys for broadcasting. Can't wait to go back and see some of the stuff I was doing wrong if I happen to be caught doing it. And, of course, Outlaw Racing, Johnny put on a clinic here. So we got to figure out how to close that gap a little bit on Jake. Racing with Heavy Hearts, shout out to the guys at Port Campbell. I know they went through a rough week with the helicopter crash. Praying for them guys. Hope they can get through that. And yeah, thanks for the league and Schue sponsoring this thing. And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thanks for stopping by and chatting with us here tonight. And again, we're looking forward to 2 weeks' time when we get to broadcast again in Texas.
Have a good night, guys.
That was DJ Weeks' third place finisher here tonight. Garrett Gleason gets to catch up with the new guy here, Chuck Sweeting.
Hey, Chuck, it's Garrett and Mitchell. Welcome to Total Nonstop Racing. It's nice to see you out there enjoying the league. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where'd you come from, and how come you're so fast?
Hey, guys. Well, just happened to be my first race with the league's at one of my favorite tracks, so I usually do pretty well here. But, yeah, I just was looking for another Xfinity league to run in and had watched some of the broadcasts, and I know a few of the guys by name that are in here, so thought I'd give it a shot, and it was good, clean racing tonight. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, we usually have pretty clean races because we're all so old, and I mean, other than our vision being bad because we're so old, I think we do a good job giving respect out there. But you were the fastest car in practice. You decided to not take a qualifying lap unless maybe you had something with the qualifying scrutiny. Was that a strategy call on your part?
That was just, I'm new to the league. I need to learn the drivers, see how they race, get them used to me and how I race. And, especially on a short track where everybody's breaking points are different. So I didn't want to qualify. I just thought I'd try to take it easy and come up through there as best as I could. And I don't know, I was surprised I got as far up as I did. Of course, a lot of those guys not taking tires under that caution helped a lot. That really surprised me. I'm not sure why they did that, but yeah, it was a choice to start back there, but I didn't expect to get quite as far up as I did, but it worked out that way.
No, it's definitely a great debut race, and we weren't really sure why those guys didn't pit either, actually. Kind of a weird call at a track at Lake Richmond where you need tires and they're so valuable, but
Yeah, we had 2 sets of tires left too, so they would have still had another set. So, yeah, I'm not real sure about that, but you mentioned age a minute ago, so I fit right in here since I'm 61 too. So, um, yeah, maybe some of them forgot what they were doing. I don't know.
yeah, that tends to happen at times here, but we'll all laugh it off. So obviously this is a great debut, and we enjoyed having you. Will you be back in 2 weeks at Texas?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. I'm not sure which track, which Texas we're doing, but either one of them is fine with me. I enjoy both of them. I prefer the older one though, but if it's a new one, that's fine too.
I think that's 2 votes for the old one. I'm going to put a poll up here when this is done, but congratulations on second place. I'm going to let you give a shout-outs to anybody that you need, and the floor is yours.
Just thanks to you guys. Thanks to all the admins with the league that do the hard work. Happy birthday to Bill, by the way. And thanks to Schue Lawn Service for helping the league out, and everybody that put some work in to get these things broadcast and get them run every week. I appreciate it. Appreciate them letting me join them.
Well, it's great having you. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks at Texas. And
All right. Thanks a lot, Gary.
all right, I think Mitchell Adams has worked his way down to victory lane, and it's another short track, another victory for Johnny Eckert. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah, Johnny Eckert with another dominant performance here on the short track. Johnny, Third win of the season. You joined just 2 other drivers who've won 3 or more races. There wasn't much question here tonight. You just seemed to be able to outpace everybody else.
Yeah, I was. I don't know. It just kind of worked out. You never really know what you're gonna get. I didn't get a whole lot of practice, and I was pretty worried about qualifying. I just wanted to make sure that I got a good lap down. I was kind of surprised that lap stood for pole because I felt like it wasn't a great lap. I felt like I could have done better, um, but yeah, once I got pole, I pretty much had the confidence that I knew I was gonna be able to dictate my own race at least for a little while, and then see who comes to battle and try to figure it out. But I figured JD was just kind of riding until the stage. He has from what I've seen this season, he doesn't really put all his cards out on the table until the stage is over. So I kind of expected a little bit more there, but that was and Gracias I think made a run at me at one point before the stage caution, but took the stage, you know, took what I did in stage one, learned from it, and applied it in the rest of the race, and it worked out well.
Is Richmond a track you come into expecting to have this good of a performance?
I've won here a few times, but I've been racing a long time, so that might that might happen. But I knew I had decent pace. I didn't know what I was really gonna have, long run wise. It's hit or miss depending on the day. If I burned my tires off, but I was pretty focused on what I was doing tonight. So um, I think I was on top of my tires a little bit more than I usually am. So I think that helps quite a bit.
Yeah, well, looking forward to. We're going to Texas for our next broadcasted race in 2 weeks. We don't know old or new yet. What's your opinion on that? And also, either way, how do you feel about Texas?
I like old Texas, not as big a fan of new Texas, but it you, you kind of figure it out and figure out what you got when you get there and see what's up. So I don't know. I prefer Old Texas because I feel like that's going to be a little bit more interesting of a race. I did a race a year or two ago with the new Texas set up there, and it was it was amazing. It was crazy, but it was a lot of fun. So hopefully we go Old Texas, but yeah, you never know what you got when you get there, and hopefully you know hopefully I'll show up again.
That's 3 votes so far for Old Texas. Talking to Garrett, we're going to put up a poll. We're going to figure out which Texas we're going to. But before we let you go here tonight and celebrate your win a little more, we'll turn the mic over to you. Give any shout outs you'd like to.
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for broadcasting. Thanks to the league for setting up the race tonight. Appreciate all the sponsors that support the league as well. Happy birthday, Bill. Apparently, apparently it's his birthday. I saw in the chat. So happy birthday to him, and thanks to my Outlaw Racing teammate. Excuse me, Outlaw Racing teammates tonight, and it was a good race, and happy to bring home another dub.
Definitely a good run for you and your Outlaw Racing team here tonight. Looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time in Texas.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
That was your winner here tonight, Johnny Eckert, who had an amazing run here, Garrett. Not really a surprise from him at this point. We're accustomed to seeing Johnny Eckert lay down some great performances. Another driver who just seems to be turning up the heat at the right time as we head toward the playoffs.
Yeah, we talk about momentum a lot on the racetrack, but it also is between races, Mitchell. You have these good runs, let them add up, and this is the time of year to get hot. So get your wins, get that momentum, and then when it comes time to the playoffs, you might intimidate some other guys, and they think, well, I need to step up my game to beat this guy, such as Johnny Eckert, and that's when mistakes happen. So it's a good time of year. Let's see what happens in the last chance qualifier, and then we'll get to Texas and see what these guys got.
It's going to be some fantastic races here coming up to close out the season. I'll go ahead and take you through your finishing order here from tonight's race. It's scrolling up at the top of your screen. But Johnny Eckert takes home his 3rd win of the season. Chuck Sweeting, in his first TNR start, finishes in 2nd place. DJ Weeks finished in 3rd here with James Lorello in 4th, and Bill Edwards rounding out your top 5. Again, A big happy birthday to Bill Edwards, his 48th here in a top 5 finish. A pretty good run to show for it. Jamar Dumas in 6th place here tonight. Mike Tellier finished in 7th. J.D. Laird finishes in 8th place. Vincent Valvano and Bob Giaquinto, the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. No, yes, the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. Scoring's being a little bit weird for some reason, but I believe that's correct. Then Philip Scott in 11th. Tristan Thuggy Maher in 12th. Matthew Rodriguez 13th. Jason Gracias in 14th. Jake Bustos 15th here tonight. Jason Schue in 16th. 4 laps down, Robert Tripp 17th. And then not finishing the race here tonight were Steven Doziak and Paul Bilson. That rounds out all your 19 drivers who took to the grid here tonight. And Garrett, another great race, another clean race. A lot of green flag we saw here tonight, which continues to be all season long what we've seen. And now we're headed into the playoffs, and the intensity, it's going to pick up a little bit. I expect these drivers going to put on some fantastic races for us.
It's been a great season, very clean season, and it's only going to get better with the chase. We're going to have some fun racetracks coming up, starting with the Last Chance Qualifier next week at the Coliseum, which is going to be absolutely crazy. And we're going to have some good broadcasts to close out the year here on the World Racing Network and the Schue Lawn Service Series. And just, if you're not part of this league, whether it's in the chat, on the Discord, racing with us, you're missing out. So please join us. We welcome everybody.
Yeah, again, a great season we've had here in TNR, and it is not done yet. We got some great races coming up. Before we go off the air tonight, want to thank all the sponsors who make this possible. Schue's Lawn Service, of course, sponsoring the series as the title sponsor. Also, Tabletop Trio sponsors our lucky dog here. Gave one of those away here tonight. Also, a big shout out to Stay Tuned Sports as well, who gives their support to the series. I hope I'm not missing anybody. I don't have my list pulled up. And of course, happy birthday, Bill Edwards. 48th birthday here tonight. Hope you had a good one, Bill. And that about does us here for our broadcast on the World Racing Network. Myself, Mitchell Adams, my broadcast partner tonight, Garrett Gleason. Want to thank you all for tuning in, and make sure to come back, hit that subscribe button if you want ring-a-ling-the-ding-a-ling bell down there to make sure that you are tuned in to get notifications whenever we go back live again with more TNR racing here to close out the season. Until we're back, hope you all stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you next time.